In my time playing WoW, I've encountered a lot of bad tanks that don't know how to pull, so this video is going to be an introduction to pulling and the various different types of pulls that you may want to use as a tank, depending on the situation. Now, as you can see here, we are in Heroic Nexus, and we're approaching the first platform after the first boss. And if we move ahead a little bit, you can see how when we're going up the ramp, there's a group of four mobs, and the first two, the front two, are casters, and the back two are melee. Now, the job of a tank is really to group them up as close together as possible, at least so that they're all in melee range. With a pally tank, you have a special, an attack, a hammer attack that hits three targets and four with the glyph. So you can hit up to four targets at once, but at the very least, you want them to be all in your consecrate range, so that at least you're building threat on all of the mobs at once. This helps prevent DPS from pulling off of you. Now you can see how, because they're so far apart, they're kind of split, that if you did not silence one of them, they would stay split. Now, fortunately for most tanks, you have some sort of silence or pull ability that allows you to pull a mob to you, either silence them and force them to come to you because they can't cast, or, like in the case of a DK, you have Death Grip. Or you can use Mind Freeze or whatever. Warriors would use Heroic Throw. Unfortunately, druids don't have that sort of luxury available to them. So what you want to do if you're a DK Pally or a warrior tank is you head for one of them and silence the other. So as you'll notice here, when I start this up, I'm targeting the left caster and I'm facing towards the right. I start running in towards the right hand caster while throwing my Avenger's Shield at the left. The reason I'm doing this is because Avenger's Shield will silence the left one and force it to come to me. The melee will come to me anyway, and it's kind of nifty that it'll bounce around. The Avenger's Shield will bounce around to the back, the left one, the back right, and the back left. All three of those as I'm heading for the one that it doesn't hit. I drop my consecrate, everything's fine. This is how you group up a group when you have split casters. This is also what's called a push rather than a pull. A push is different from a pull in that you're running to the mobs rather than pulling them towards you. You're pushing towards the mobs. And you kind of have to do that in this situation because you only have one silence ability. You're not going to be able to bounce that Avenger's Shield from one caster to another because it'll always go back then across rather than from one caster on the right to the other caster on the left. So you want to push in to the one mob while you're throwing your Avenger's Shield and pulling the rest to you. So sometimes you're going to push, sometimes you're going to pull. And that's what we're going to examine next is the line of sight pull. A line of sight pull utilizes a mechanic in the game where casters must be able to see you in order to hit you. What you're basically doing is causing them to not be able to see you by going around a corner and getting out of their line of sight. This forces them to close the distance into melee range if you are just around the corner. Quite often I see tanks try to do line of sight pulls, but they pull themselves too far around a corner and they end up not being in melee range of the caster. What you want to do is find a corner where you're going to be out of line of sight, pop around the corner, pull the mobs, get their attention, and then go duck around just around the corner so you're barely out of their sight. For Pallies and Warriors and DKs that with the AoE, you want to be able to have your AoE attack, your Shockwave or Consecrate or Death and Decay, or even with Druids, your Swipe, to be able to reach through the corner to the other side of the corner in order to catch them just as they're getting to the corner before they come around. So at least you're going to do some sort of damage as they're coming around the corner to you and you're building initial threat. It's a very simple move to do, and you're always, as a tank, looking for corners to do line of sight pulls, especially at lower levels, so that you don't have to worry about, if, I don't have a silence yet, or maybe a silence is not particularly beneficial here, or you can't do it because there's too many casters. So you're going to want a line of sight, like if you have three or more casters, you're going to want to line of sight them so that you can group them all up. Keep in mind the goal of pulling properly as a tank is to group up the mobs so that they are all within the range of your AoE threat generation abilities, and so that you can hold on to the mobs so that the DPS can't pull off of you. You need to group them up to build your threat. Now in this situation in Old Kingdom, this pull is generally done using line of sight to the place where I'm standing right now. The tank doesn't do what he should do and goes directly to them, risking pulling the patrols. There's multiple patrols that get near enough where, especially if you have a hunter or a mage that decides to stand off to the side, especially to the right, they risk pulling from the side. So the tank just runs right in, and that is not how you should do that pull. What you should have done is go off to the side where I'm standing here and get their attention, then slide over to me. And I was trying to indicate that to him by standing there, but he decided not to. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this very basic introduction to pulling, and I hope you can incorporate some of these ideas into your own tanking. Thank you for watching.